Obviously, Boris Johnson is looking at removing the license fee, making it a subscription-based model. You're quite critical of the BBC, are you not?
Well, I think the BBC's too big, apart from anything else. I mean, what it's meant to do and what it was invented to do was to produce, broadcastable material either for the radio or for television at a time when that was really, they were the only people that could do it. When they invented, Radio 4, when it was called the Home Service, and I used to listen to it, my mother used to listen to the Archers, every night, and the Today programme, it was good because there wasn't much else to listen to. There wasn't much else out there, and it was very well done. And the news, everybody watched the news at 6 o'clock because that was how you found out what was going on. But now if you don't know what's going on at 6 o'clock, you must have literally been asleep all day, because everybody now knows they get an alert on the phone when something happens. I mean, during the coronavirus scenario, you're getting alerts going on all the time. Well, this has happened or that's happened, a few more cases over here. I mean, if you're really not able to see any of that, and you get to 6 o'clock and you go, oh my God, there's a coronavirus going on. And you have to be living in a cave or something,
Yeah.
And also, I've looked at what it is that they do. They employ 22,000 people, right? They've got 61 radio stations. Now, one of my incarnations was running a radio station in Edinburgh, the first speech license that was given out since LBC back in 1973. And it didn't work in the end because it was smothered by BBC Scotland. BBC Scotland is this massive, huge organisation with a great big office on the banks of the Clyde in Glasgow, employs hundreds of people, and so commercial operators can't get a look in. You cannot run a commercial radio station for speech in this country because of the BBC. They've got BBC Sussex, BBC Surrey, BBC Kent, all in a very small part of the southeast of England. 3 different stations, completely different programming, completely different presenters. I mean, it's a nonsense, and they for me that should all go. I'm quite happy for them to keep the news operation because I think some of it's still very good. But, why the hell do they do Strictly, for example? What is the BBC doing making a programme about dancing in which they pay loads of money to individuals to appear on it? I don't get it. That's not what the licence is for, as far as I'm concerned. And why do they have such a massive website? What are they doing making children? They have 10 TV stations, 10 channels. Which they don't need. They were supposed to have shut down BBC Three, still seems to be going. They're commissioning stuff now just for the iPlayer. And it's just too big. I think it just needs to be broken down.
So you want to make it leaner, but are you saying we should abolish the license?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
But do you not think that...
And you should pay for the bits of it that you want.
Right.
That's how I would do it.
The reason I ask is and I'm someone who's gone on the BBC a number of times, usually to criticise the BBC.
Right.
So I'm not a huge fan,
right.
On the one hand. On the other hand, I do think that we do need one national broadcaster where in a very polarized politically society, we can all come together and what they need to do is kind of be more balanced, which they haven't been. They've taken the piss on some things.
Right.
But if they could be more balanced on that, I think they could actually bring people together into a common space. Otherwise, we just all disappear into our own echo chamber.
Well, certainly Andrew Neil made that point. He came back from America, I think it was sometime last year, and he said, I watched TV when I was there, and he knows America, he works over there and all that, and he said, I watched a program on MSNBC, which was 4 guests talking about what a horrible man Donald Trump was. And then I went over to Fox and there was 4 people talking on a chat show there about what a great guy Donald Trump was. He said, here's what you should do. Why don't you take 2 of them out from each side, put them in the same show, and they can have a proper argument. And you're right, I don't want to see British media becoming polarised so that only some people watch this and other people watch that. But the problem is that, who decides what the BBC does, right? I mean, if you were to be the guy that said, now we're going to make X number of shows, we're going to have this many channels, we're going to employ this many journalists. I mean, what is it though? Is it an entertainment vehicle? Is it a news vehicle? What is it? How would you change it?
Well, it's a combination of a few of those, isn't it? Which is maybe why you say it's too big.
Well, in my view, when I was growing up, I'm a lot older than you guys, I was watching things like Porridge and Dad's Army and all of that. There was literally nothing else going on. I mean, there were 3 channels. I remember when there was only 2 channels, and long before they brought 4 and 5 in, and you didn't have a massive choice. And Saturday night, the family sat down and you basically watched TV from about 6 o'clock at night till Match of the Day finished, But people don't do that anymore. And variety comes in many different ways. People will watch your show rather than watch TV. You've got smart TV now, you can watch YouTube on it, and it's just as good, You don't need to spend a fortune on making Peaky Blinders. Somebody else can do that. Netflix can make Peaky Blinders. Why is the BBC spending a fortune doing it? So I just think that the model of basically telling people that you must buy this, otherwise we'll put you in prison. You know, it's supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine somebody from Netflix turning up and going, you don't have a Netflix subscription, so we're going to arrest you now. You know, you can't, in this day and age, I don't think it's justified.
And it is quite a regressive, if you look at it as a tax,
Yeah.
it is very regressive.